Alrighty, so we are back again today. Don't know if that's how I introed my other video, but anyways, today I wanted to talk about how to start a comic, or at least how I start a comic, and it's going to be a very simple, hopefully short, sweet, to the point video. One of the things that I struggle with when it comes to starting a comic is actually starting it, which that sounds redundant, but it's like I can't start the comic because there are a lot of different factors, but one of the main factors I want to talk about is like I'm terrified of the whole project itself. Like I'm overwhelmed because it's like, okay, I know to start a comic you have to start it, because usually that's what people say. Oh, I want to start a comic, then just start it. Okay, but where do I start? Just start. And it's like this is not answering the question. It's like, I don't know what your problem is. Just start it. You said you don't know how to start a comic. Just start it. It's like, okay, but where? You see the cycle. So today I want to talk about what I go through, how I start my comic, and what I mean by how do I start a comic. And what I mean by that is like, what's my first step I should take? Should I start from the script? Do I create the characters? Like it gets overwhelming. So my kind of workflow that I do, and this is kind of like a general workflow. I'm not going to go all the way back to like how I start my script, but just basically how this is after I already have my script, I have my characters, I have all this. How do I actually start it? You know, you got all the tools now. It's like, now what do I do? And usually I have that question, or that question pops up because I'm overwhelmed by which step to take. I've reiterated this so many times. I'm sorry for being redundant. So my workflow is, or my action plan that I try to stick to is, after I type up all my dialogue, like I type up my whole script, which is just basically the dialogue interaction between the two characters. After I have the dialogue, I go into whatever art program that I'm currently using, and I start the file setup. So I will see how many files it will take, or how many pages it will take to add each line of dialogue. Sometimes with my files, since I'm working in a Webtoon format, it's a long form, so the panels are on top of each other. So usually I might change it up later on, but usually I just do like 2 lines of dialogue within each file. I don't like working I just do 2 panels per file at the max at times. That might change, but right now I do 2 panels per file. So after I count up all of my lines of dialogue, I calculate how many files that will be, and then I add those files. Next step, I go on to adding the dialogue lines into the program itself. And then after I added the dialogue lines onto each file, the next step, I start the thumbnailing process. I look at the dialogue, I figure out, okay, what's the surrounding area, if that's important to the line of dialogue. If it's not important, I don't think about the surrounding area. I think about, like, I'll read the dialogue and I'll see, okay, what needs to be shown here, what needs to be shown here, or what character action needs to be shown that's in connection to the story, that's relevant to the story, not in connection, that's relevant to the story. So after I read the dialogue and I think about, okay, what needs to be drawn here, what's relevant, I start the thumbnailing process, and I'll do like a rough thumbnail, and then I will clean up the thumbnails so that it's like so that the next inking stage is very easy, because I know I'm like repeating the stages, but it's like I like to easily, like, mindlessly trace over my blue line for my thumbnails, which you guys see through my video right here, my speed draw. I make the thumbnail lines very, like, I clean them up, and then I make it very simple and easy to ink. I could just like overstep the whole entire process and just like ink right during the thumbnail stage, but right now with this workflow, we do thumbnails. We're doing thumbnails through this workflow. The next step, of course, you see, is my inking stage. Then after that, I go on to my base color stage. or I might end up like finding what background assets I could use. I try to keep my backgrounds very simple because with me and Michael, I want to learn how to tell a story, and my focus is more so on the story, the jokes, the comedy of it all. So I'm not really trying to have the background be as like wow, amazing. Like that's not really my objective, I guess you could say. Right now, the story and the jokes and the facial expressions and the comedy of it all is my objective. So I'll just usually have like one background that just shows where the characters might be, just so that the readers are like, okay, this is where they're at, and then we just continue on with the story. So I just have simple backgrounds, and that also sometimes with this stage, the background stage, after I do the base colors, usually my backgrounds are also just simple base colors like Garfield style. You know how he'll have like the random shapes, a circle just to show like the color background or whatever. If you read Garfield, I love Garfield. If you read Garfield, you'll know what I'm talking about. I have a Garfield book right here as reference that I go back to whenever I'm like, okay, what background color should I use? But anyways, that's also like the next process step, whatever, that I do. I try to keep my workflow very simple, but those are usually, and then that's it, and then I export the comic. So that's what I do. That's my workflow. So to wrap it all up, what I first do, I do the script, and then I do the file setup after looking at all the lines of dialogue. After that, I go into the thumbnailing process, and then I go into thumbnailing and then clean up the thumbnail process, or the rough draft stage, I guess you could say. After that, I go into the inking, and then I will do the base colors for the inking, and then I will do the background and yes, it's just the background. Then I'll do the background, and then I export it. So I guess I don't know how many steps I just listed, but that's what I do, and that's how I start my comics. I try to break down an easy to follow workflow, and then I just rinse and repeat, and I do it all over again. So what are some of your guys's like workflow action plans or processes that you guys do when you are trying to just start your comic? Like what steps do you break down and you just take so that you can be like, okay, I can do this, I cannot get overwhelmed. I can do this. That's what I do. I don't think I have anything else I want to cover because this is just a pretty simple video, how I go about starting my comic. I hope this was helpful to you guys. I feel like it wasn't because it's so basic. Not so basic, it's just I didn't say a lot. But I mean, like, if I was younger, I would definitely want to hear someone say this. So I shouldn't devalue what I'm saying. It just feels like because I'm saying it, it's not. I'm not that credible of a person because I need to. You know what? No, we're going to be positive. I am a person who draws stuff, and I draw comics, and I can share how I go about that. And what I've shared, it could be valuable. Okay, that's all. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this speed paint. Feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know your workflow, or if you have any questions you'd like me to cover. If not, I'll be back next week. I'll be back. Focus sharing. Wow. I'll be back. I'm trying to stick to a weekly upload schedule. So wish me luck. But I will be back with another speed paint and me struggling to talk. Alrighty, bye you guys. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.